Muslims, I mean, we're using terms from last
There
year.
you go. It's great. You are educated.
You take a holiday.
You
You have
too.
your
Right?
Sunni,
Sunni and Shiite? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so here we go. Let me kind of remind you, just real quickly, kind of point out the stuff I've given to you. The first one is a worksheet on Shays Rebellion. That's what I'm going to touch on real quickly here. That's in your book. It's on page 168. So you'll have that, and you have the questions on the back. Most of you can do that. It's pretty easy to do. You have also a chart. Like I said, my interaction with the other class realized that they were in desperate need of help. And so this might help you as well. This is your friend. This is your friend. Live this, learn it, love it, be it. Okay, so we'll talk about Articles of Confederation on one side, which we've been harping on last time. And then we have the U.S. Constitution, and that's what we're going to be focused on today. I will try to get done here. And then on the back of it is going to be a chart contrasting the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist debate. And so if you look on the board, you have a bit of homework to do. You've got this worksheet for Shays Rebellion, and then you have some online stuff, which is pretty simple. A monkey could do it. It's really simple. It's gaming. It's gaming. It's fun for you. Yes, you will laugh and cry and be celebrating. Yes. We'll see. May not cry. Tears of joy. Okay, so and you have all of that, and of course you're still working on your key terms and your study questions thingy. Okay. Now the idea with that is that it will be due when we take your quiz. So if you look on the board there, Tuesday, which is going to be the 24th, homecoming week. Okay. Because next week, Thursday, we'll finish the whole lecture up with the ratification process and the Federalist Papers and so on and so forth. And then you have we have Mission Day on Friday. So essentially you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then you have your quiz on Tuesday, and the test is the following Thursday. Okay? So we got a lot of time in this thing, just because Mission Day has kind of broken us up a little bit. Yesterday kind of broke us up a little bit. And so you need to kind of keep the cats together. Keep herding the cats together here, and get this nailed down. It's only one chapter long, so it's not that hard to do unless you just totally give up. All right, don't do that, please. All right. Okay, so let's talk about Shays Rebellion. This is on page 168. Daniel Shay, 1786, left-hand side, Massachusetts. How bad are things under the Articles of Confederation? They're very bad. In particular, economic problems. So after the war, pretty much you have taxation because the states have to raise revenues to pay off the war debt and to pay their normal bills and so on. Part of the problem, of course, if there ain't no money, is that, remember, before under mercantilism, you had gold and silver. Most of that had been taken over by the British under mercantilism. The states had tried to print money. You had wild inflation, and then on top of that, a number of farmers who had been in the army during the American Revolution, they didn't get paid. They were given IOUs. They were told that we'll get back to you, and so they go back to their farms, and their farms, they have to pay the mortgages on the farms. They have taxes they have to pay, and they ain't got no money. So it's a no-win situation. And so when people typically get in a no-win situation, they get frustrated and they say, we're going to revolt, we're going to get angry, we're going to pick up our weapons and do something about it. And that's what happens with Shays Rebellion. Daniel Shay basically gets a bunch of guys together. And usually what they're doing is they're trying to prevent the local courts from opening up, because it's through the courts that if your farm is being mortgaged, if it's being foreclosed on, if there's some kind of legal action being taken against you, if the courts don't meet, the lawyers don't meet, and the judges can't get to the courts, then basically, supposedly, the system breaks down, all right? But armed rebellion is not good, and even contrary to Thomas Jefferson, who said a little rebellion now and then is great, which is Thomas Jefferson was out of his mind when he said that. So what happens in Massachusetts, that the governor will raise up his own private militia, and basically say, you need to go deal with Daniel Shay and his men. And you can read that story on page 11 there. Now, the rebellion will end And Daniel Shea will be pardoned by John Hancock later on. John Hancock will be the governor of Massachusetts after the Revolution. Okay, but the point is now is that there's these pockets of unrest boiling underneath the surface because we've got a number of problems that the Articles of Confederation are not dealing with, and so the founding fathers in particular are saying we need a new system. We need to do something different. Okay. And so that's going to lead us to, on the next page, 169. Now, I'm just going to jump over the right-hand side. Is at Philadelphia, you have 1787, May. You have 55 delegates brought together in Philadelphia. And originally the premise was to revise the Articles of Confederation. So a call goes out to all the states, and all the states send out delegates to Independence Hall. And originally the idea was that they were just going to try to fix a weak system, a broken system. But a number of the founding fathers, James Madison in particular, you have Alexander Hamilton, George Washington, and so on. Jefferson's not there, by the way. Jefferson's partying down with the French still, okay? John Adams is in France, being an ambassador for America. And so, but everybody else, they're coming together, and Madison in particular has been studying, he's a student of history. And he's been looking at all the governments, world governments, and you think of world history, you think about, and he's trying to find like the perfect government. And like, if you were given the assignment, like create a government from scratch, good luck on that. But Madison is brilliant. In fact, he's so brilliant that he's going to be given the title, the father of the Constitution. He's going to come armed with bear. He's going to have all this historical evidence. He's going to be looking at all the types of government currently in that time period, like with France and England and different countries and so on. And they're trying to figure out some way to create something that will be permanent, okay? And will deal with a lot of the problems. Also, too, if you ever studied the Constitution in depth or the Convention in depth, Madison basically copied all of the debates. And there was going to be a number of debates that are going to go on, and it's Madison who pretty much recorded as much as you think humanly can be done about what was actually said. So in my library, I've got these big, thick books where basically Madison is just like his writings of the entire convention. Okay, so there you go on that. All right, so moving on over, let's talk about page 170. Is that so? What they want to do? Okay, so the majority of founding fathers say, okay, we're not going to revise our Confederation. We're starting totally brand new. So therefore, what they got to do is they have to in Independence Hall shut all the windows, close everything down, put guards on the doors because they don't want anybody to know what they're doing. Okay, because in a sense they have no idea what they're doing. Okay, they know that they have to have a starting point. They have a starting place, and they're going to be. You have all these delegates who are going to argue, and they're going to get in these debates, and so they want secrecy to produce something. Now, the first thing they're going to try to come up with is about representation. Okay, representation. Now, what I mean by that is that every state, for example, under the Articles of Confederation, when Congress would meet under the Articles of Confederation, every state had one vote. Okay, you had 13, so it didn't matter if you were a big state or a little state, you had one vote. Remember that? Okay, so now with this new form of government, you had the big states who are basically saying, okay, we're bigger, we have a bigger population, so we should have more say. We should have more representation in this new form of government. And that's usually referred to as the large state plan or the Virginia plan. Now, under that large state plan, their view of government, at least for the legislative part, it would be a two-house system. And when we say two-house, it's usually referred to what we call a bicameral system. This, by the way, this is on the right-hand side where it says Virginia plan in bold type in your book on page 170. Bicameral is not two camels. Okay, it is again like Parliament, where you have the House of Lords, House of Commons, right? And so you would have a two layer or two structure system. Again, you have upper house and lower house, according to the Virginia plan. And the representation would be based upon population. Okay? Now, the itsy bitsy states like Delaware, okay, New Jersey, you think of Rhode Island, okay, they don't like this because they're itsy bitsy states. And they would say we would get pushed around all the time by the big states in as far as representation goes. And so they propose a small state plan, which says right there, which is referred to as the New Jersey plan. And the New Jersey plan is just basically the Articles of Confederation. They're just saying, let's not have a two-house system. Let's be based on population. That's unfair. So let's go back to just one state, one vote, and it'll be unicameral. It'll be just one house. Let's just keep it simple. So this debate and this question about representation goes on and on for weeks. Okay. And it deadlocks. They basically, the delegates, they argue about it, they talk about it, they discuss it, and they can't figure out a way to work things out. Okay, it looks like it's gonna come crashing down. So what happens is interesting is that on this paper here I just given to you about Benjamin Franklin, okay? Of all things, okay, this is gonna be June 28, 1787. Franklin is going to make a speech, all right? And I'm going to read it to you, and so to help you understand what's going on. So Franklin's going to address Congress. He's going to mention Mr. President. Washington is the head of this convention, okay? This Congress, and he'll say, the small progress we've made after 4 or 5 weeks close attendance and continual reasons with each other, our different sentiments on almost every question, several of the last producing as many no's as ayes, is methinks a melancholy proof of the imperfection of human understanding. We indeed seem to feel our want of political wisdom since we've been running about in search of it. We have gone back to ancient history for models of government and examined the different forms of those republics which have been formed with the seeds of their own dissolution now no longer exist. And we have viewed modern states all around Europe but find none of their constitutions suitable to our circumstances. In this situation of this assembly groping as it were in the dark to find political truth and scarce able to distinguish it when to us, how is it, sir, that we have not hitherto once thought of humbly applying to the Father of lights to illuminate our understandings? In the beginning of the contest with Great Britain, when we were sensible of danger, we had daily prayer in this room for the divine protection. Our prayers, sir, were heard and were graciously answered. All of us who were engaged in the struggle must have observed the frequent instances of superintending providence in our favor. To that kind providence we owe this happy opportunity of consulting in peace on the means of establishing our future national felicity. And now have we forgotten that our powerful friend, or do we imagine we no longer need his assistance? I have lived, sir, a long time, and the longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth, that God governs in the affairs of men. And if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid? We've been assured, sir, in the sacred writings that except the Lord build, they labor in vain that build it. I firmly believe this, and I also believe that without his occurring aid, we shall succeed in this political building no better than the builders of Babel. We shall be divided in our little partial local interests, our projects will be confounded, and we ourselves shall be a reproach and a byword down to the future age. And what is worse, mankind may hereafter, this unfortunate instance, despair of establishing governments by human wisdom and leave it to chance, war, and conquest. I therefore beg to move that henceforth prayers imploring the assistance of heaven and its blessings on our deliberations be held in this assembly every morning before we proceed to business, and that one or more of the clergy in the city be requested to officiate in that service. Okay, this little speech is huge. It's huge. Okay, number one, it's really surprising because it's Benjamin Franklin. Okay, Franklin, as you know, was not an Orthodox believer. Okay, he was a deist. Okay, but he was raised in a Christian culture. Right, they knew the Bible. They understood their world in biblical terms. Okay, and so this deadlock, this frustration, this confusion. Franklin's the guy who stands up and says, "Okay, you remember during the Revolution, like when things really sucked?" And we were in trouble and things were really bad, that we actually prayed every day for God's help, and God helped us. And now here we are again, and maybe we need God's advice. Maybe we need wisdom. Maybe we need some help here, okay? And so this is like really super important. When we talk about, there's no separation of church and state here. You literally have a founding father saying, we need Jesus, we need God, okay? And so they asked that let's bring in a pastor every day to pray with us and basically ask for God's help, okay? And this is one reason why in the Senate today, every time they start a new session, they have say a pastor, a minister pray to open the session. Now today it's corrupted because they usually bring in like a Hindu priest or they bring some witch doctor in or something like that. Oh, it's so corrupted now, it's not even funny, yeah. But this is where it starts, okay? So heads up on that. So what happens? They pray and lo and behold, they come up with a solution. Okay, God answers their prayers, okay? With the Great Compromise, Roger Sherman from Connecticut kind of puts it all together. And what they do is they kind of combine both plans, okay, both plans. And so what you have in Congress, the legislative branch, is you have two houses, a two-house system. You have the upper house, which is the Senate, and you have the lower house, which is the House of Representatives. And in the upper house, the Senate, you essentially have the Virginia plan. What that means is that every state will have two senators. And the word senator comes back from the Romans. This is world history all over again, okay? And so every state equally will have two senators. And these two senators will serve 6-year terms. Okay? And in the lower house, you essentially have the small state plan, the New Jersey plan. So you'll have representatives from each state based upon population. So a large state will have more representatives, and a small state will have less representatives because of population. And these representatives will serve 2-year terms. Now, the lower house, their responsibility is mostly with more practical matters, and particularly anything we do have to do with money. Anything having to do with taxes, money, budget, things like it always begins in the House of Representatives. Yeah. So, what else we got on this here? Blah, blah. Okay. Then with this new system they're building, okay, it's going to be 3 branches of government. Okay, 3 branches. It should sound familiar to you, okay? So under the Articles of Confederation, you don't have a presidency. There's no executive branch under the Articles of Confederation. Now, the debate was with this is that because the fear initially was that when you talk about a president, you're really talking about a king, okay? So you had the anti-federalists who were saying, we don't want a king. We don't want to give power to a man, a person, because we just fought against that, all right? So they would say, well, this president is an executive, okay? He's not a king, right? An executive, what does he do? He executes, not like killing people, okay? He's the one who enforces the law. So Congress will make laws, and the president, who doesn't make laws, by the way, all he does is his job is to make sure those laws are carried out, okay? And that president can only serve, again, 2 terms in office. 4-year terms, okay? And one of the things that sells the executive branch to the Congress is everybody knows who's going to be the first president of the United States, right? Okay, please make sure you know. Okay, Benjamin Franklin, yes. No! Yeah, okay, because everybody trusted Washington with power, okay? And that's what sold it, is because of who the person was, all right? And then the 3rd branch, again, now, is going to be the judicial branch, is that have been judges and courts and so on and so forth. Now, states did have their local courts, but the 3rd branch of the national government, the federal government, we will have this thing called the Supreme Court. Supreme. Okay? Highest law of the land. Highest court of the land. Okay? And the idea with these 3 branches of government, okay, is going to be checks and balances. Checks and balances. Because the founding fathers, what they knew is that when you consolidate power, okay, because they want a strong national government, right, to deal with all the economic problems, all the other problems they're going with. The temptation is when you start collecting power, consolidating power, it can be abused, all right? So for example, okay, Congress makes a law. Have you ever seen the old video, Schoolhouse Rock, I'm only a bill, Bill in Capitol Hill? No, you never seen that? Okay, I'll have to, so in my government class, this idea is that Congress creates a bill, but in order for that bill to become law, it has to go to the presidency. It has to go to the president, and he has to sign it, okay? And then he signs it, it becomes the law of the land. But if he doesn't, he vetoes it and says no, all right? And then that bill gets struck down. That's a checks and balance, okay? So a power of Congress is to create laws. A power of the president is to say, I can veto that law. It's a check and balance. You want to get me on that? Okay. Nothing too on the right-hand side of page 171 is that the president cannot declare war. I know it may surprise you, but that's true. Only Congress can declare war. But the president is the commander-in-chief. Sometimes you'll hear the president be referred to as the commander-in-chief. And that what it means is he's symbolically the head of the armed forces. Now, the only person who actually, you could argue, is really like that, because we've had some presidents who've been generals. Obviously, Washington would be the real deal, okay? Grant would be the real deal. Not Roosevelt, Eisenhower would have been, yeah, okay? So, you get that. You don't want Biden out there at 80 years old, trying to lead. Yeah. So, okay, then we'll cheer for him. No, sorry. Okay, so, and of course, the president is elected through the electoral college. Now, when we get my government class, we'll talk more about what is the electoral college, but just it's a system in place where, again, it's a safeguard. It's a safeguard against the mob. Now on page 72, we're continuing on here, going back to representation. This section here is touching a little bit on the issue of slavery, of course, okay? Because a lot of times the question is, why did not the Declaration of Independence and why didn't the Constitution deal with the issue of slavery, okay? And one of the answers for that is that you have to put yourself in their shoes, okay? That, so for the Declaration of Independence, you got a war, you have revolution going on, okay? And you needed that cooperation, remember that? With this new form of government they're creating again, is that it's exact same thing, is that you are trying to get a compromise and everybody to come together to agree to some type of government. If the northern states, for example, or the states who did not have slaves, told the southern states, we're going to create a new government, okay, and we're going to totally outlaw slavery, okay, what do you think the southern states would have done? Yeah, Virginia is a southern state. They had slavery in Virginia. They would have not. They would just taken their ball and gone home, and the whole thing would just been totally shot, and the country would have collapsed. Okay, and we already have the abolition of slavery in the old Northwest. Remember that? So there's progress there. Now, one thing they'll do here is that in the new Constitution is they say in a little caption in that Congress can outlaw the international slave trade in 1807. Okay, in 1807, and they do. Okay, so the triangle trade thing with Africa and all that kind of stuff. In 1807, the United States no longer participates in that. The problem is that we have so many domestic slaves already; they're naturally reproducing. Okay, so we don't need to be trading internationally anymore. Another thing connected to African Americans at the time too is the 3/5 compromise. Okay, the 3/5 compromise. Now this is bizarre. Okay, I'll just say it's bizarre. Because the South, what they try to pull a fast one, they say, hey, if in the lower house of representatives it's based upon population, then we want to count our black people. We want to count our slaves as people, all right? And the people in the North say, no, wait a second. You've been telling us all the time they're property. Because if it's going to be about property, we're going to count our chickens and our dogs and our cats and our horses and like that, okay? And, this is ridiculous, okay? And so what they come up with is the 3/5 compromise, okay? Is that, and I know there's more to it than just what I'm saying to you, but I'm just going to say it this way. You're essentially counting a slave as 3/5 of the person towards population. Now, how you do the math, I have no idea, but there it is there. Now, obviously, this is going to get struck down later on. We get after the Civil War, okay? All this stuff gets basically amended and changed, all right? So every single person is counted as a full person, all right, except babies in the womb, and then because we kill them, all right? So yeah. Sorry, that's a little side note. Okay, yeah, so, it's true. We do, we kill our baby, aren't they people? Yeah.
I know.
Huh?
It's like I'm out of nowhere. It's like I'm just.
Oh, I'm on a roll. I'm right, okay, so yeah, that's it, okay, you get the idea. Abortion's bad. Okay, there you go. All right. So on page 172 on the right-hand side, safeguards for conservatism. I'm almost done. They'll mention here is about, I mentioned about checks and balances. I mentioned the 3 branches of government. Federal judges are appointed to a lifetime appointment. Okay, they're the only job where, again, you want to protect the integrity of the court system. So judges supposedly can be on there as long as they want to be. Okay, that's why when you look at them, they're all really old. They've been there a long time. So on page 173, they do all this work. Okay, so it goes from May all the way to September. Okay, it is hot. There has been a lot of debate, a lot of discussions. There's a lot more details to this. Okay, in my government class, we actually go through the entire Constitution, look at every little detail. Okay, but they come. It's mentioned here as September 17th, 1787, Constitution Day. You didn't know that? Okay, there's actually Constitution Day, and where what they'll do is they'll finish it and they're going to send it to all the different states to ratify it. Okay. Now, what's interesting about that they'll mention on this page, on page 173 on the left-hand side, it says only 42 of the original 55 members remain to sign the Constitution. 3 of the 42 refusing to do so returned to their states to resist ratification. The remainder, adjoining to the city tavern, celebrated the toast-worthy occasion. But no one mentions of the convention, no members of the convention were completely happy about the result, okay? And this is important to understand, is that the Constitution is not perfect, okay? There is no perfect form of human government. The reason, because it is human government, because people are fallen, they're imperfect, they make bad, they have limited understanding. But my point is this, is that it's good. The Constitution is brilliant. It is a great, I think America is one of the oldest constitutions that still exists today. There's a lot of debate about that, how much we actually obey the Constitution though today. But the point here is that when people criticize the Constitution, say it's racist, say it's dysfunctional, and we need to just burn it all down to the ground, my question a lot of times is, what are you going to put in its place? What do you have that's better than this? All right? And that kind of leads to the story where supposedly at the end, Franklin's walking out and a woman sees him and says, Dr. Franklin, so what do we have? Do we have a monarchy or do we have a republic? And Franklin says to her, you have a republic if you can keep it. And that's kind of the moral of the story, is that you may be given a republic underneath the Constitution, but if you don't keep it, then you don't deserve it and you lose it. So heads up on that. It's a foreshadowing, by the way. Okay, so let's talk about what your homework is for today. You already know you've got Shade's Rebellion. Okay, they'll fill in the blanks there a little bit for you if I went through it a little bit too quickly. You also have online the Google Classroom. You have a couple of activities. Okay, now listen carefully. Is that a monkey could do these? Okay, they're fairly simple to do. All right. So the first one is going to be about which founding father are you? It has a little quick essay on that. And the other one is going to be a quick essay on the Constitution. It's like 10 questions long. There's actually a 50-question one if you want to do that one, but I didn't think you want to do that one. Okay, so for regulars, you will do those 2 activities and then you'll screenshot me those results. All right. Now for honors, you've got a 3rd activity to do. All right. So of course you do. You're special, and so you'll do that. So you've got, again, Shade's Rebellion, online Google activity, and then you have, of course, keep working on your key terms, study questions, and so on. All right. Okay. Now remember, I don't see you again until Tuesday, Lord willing. All right. So you have a little extra day, you have a little extra time compared to the other classes. That's the reason why I'm giving you the assignment that they had, because you guys are like 1 day behind basically, as far as material goes. All right. So make sure, again, we should be all caught up by Tuesday. We wrap it up on Thursday, getting Bobbly Boo. Okay, then we're ready for the quiz and the test. Okay? Yes, you in the front.
I don't have the Benjamin Franklin.
You have no Benjamin Franklin. All right.
I thought it was Benjamin Franklin.
Or the chart.
Who said the quote?
Or the chart.
Quote.
You don't have no chart either?
Yeah, you can have it, I'll let it on.
Right.
Okay.
It's in your
Wait, so we
textbook.
need to do the, we
I need
need
the-
color, right?
I also need the pen.
All three, you get to do all three.
And then the study guide.
Wait, so we put it
Finish that completely?
next to red.
No,
Oh.
that's it, Steel Wednesday, right? You wanna do this, you wanna do, you want?
I want to do the other one.
You still want to do the other one, right there you go.
Allie, can I turn off your phone?
Oh, shoot.
Are you done explaining stuff?
I'm done explaining stuff.
Go ahead.
I